Okay, and welcome back to Burning Questions episode 2. I've got my co-host Max here.
Yo.
And we've got a very disturbing story for you today. Viewer discretion is advised. It's going to get dark. The name of this story is called "This Man Was Kept Alive Against His Will for 82 Days by Doctors." Have you got any indications there, Max, what this story could be?
No, I'm going in blind. I definitely haven't heard this story.
Right, let's get straight into it. On the 30th of September 1999, Hisashi Ouchi started his day not knowing his life would change forever. Hisashi worked at the Takamura nuclear plant located in the Naka district in Ibaraki, Japan. It was a big nuclear site and was only located meters away from the coastline. Leading up to this day, staff were responsible for looking over the process of dissolving and mixing enriched uranium oxide with nitric acid to produce uranyl nitrate.
Uranal?
Yeah, no. I actually went on Google Translate, right, to see, is it like uranium?
Yeah.
So it's like uranyl nitrate, but it is uranyl nitrate.
Urinal nitrate.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Uranyl. It sounds dodgy, man.
Yeah, either way.
Either way, it's dodgy as fuck. Uranyl nitrate is a nuclear fuel, and it's highly dangerous.
Right.
Very dangerous stuff. And anyway, the bosses of the plant wanted the product to be ready by the 28th, as they had a shipment, and they were putting quite a lot of pressure on the staff and the technicians at the plant in preparing the uranyl nitrate. And a lot of the staff, because they had so much pressure put on them, they were cutting corners in the process. So they had like a lot of pressure on them. They're trying to make this fuel at the nuclear site, and the methods and the protocols that they're using to actually produce this fuel is not right. They're starting to actually break protocol and start mixing uranium oxide with nitric acid in different ratios. And they're also the way they're handling it, they're not even usually you have proper special radioactive equipment and procedures. They're literally mixing this stuff in a metal bucket.
All right. Okay.
Do you have any idea where this is going so far, Max?
To be honest, no. It sounds a very Homer-esque, like working in the how he just has uranium in his pocket in the intro and stuff like that.
I know, that's why their fucking skin's all yellow. That's the reason why everyone's basically fucking erased.
That is it. That's the new conspiracy.
So yeah, due to the time constraints put on them by management, the staff and the technicians was not preparing the uranyl nitrate properly, was cutting corners to meet the deadlines. Uranyl nitrate is a nuclear fuel, and it is extremely dangerous. And it is comprised of uranium. And do you know what the half-life of uranium is?
No.
Any idea?
No idea.
I was shocked actually when I found this out. The
What
half-life of uranium is 4.5 billion years.
What the hell?
Right. And I've got some statistics here for you to even blow your mind even further.
Okay.
For uranium to completely break down and break it, to disappear out of existence once it decays.
Yeah.
That's how long the Earth has existed. The Earth has existed for 4.5 billion years.
That's mental.
And the universe has only existed for 13 billion years. Well, not only, that's a lot. Making it sound like
only.
But like in terms of the thing, that's how long and hazardous it is.
Jeez.
The half-life is 4.5 billion years.
That's crazy.
To dispose of this stuff, they fucking have to put it in lead things and bury it deep underground.
Jeez.
And just wait for it. It would take it's gonna we'll be long gone, or we're a fucking humans would be a super emperor of the galaxy by then. I reckon we'll wiped ourselves out.
Yeah.
And then that leads us on to our first pop quiz.
Okay.
So these questions they're related to the subject, and it become a lot more apparent as it goes on. So can you tell me what was the name of the first nuclear bomb dropped on Japan? Was it A, Big Boy?
Big Boy.
Was it B, Little Boy?
Oh.
Or was it C, Big Toy?
Oh. This is gonna be quite funny. I didn't actually know it had a name.
Both of the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki had names.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I'll tell you the other name after if you get this one wrong.
Okay. I'm gonna go with Big Boy just because, as a fellow thick lad, I'm I gotta stand up for my big
It
boy.
sounds like a bomb name though, doesn't it? Like you'd make a bomb and you'd just be like, "That's a big boy."
Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
You like
It's true.
that and you just be like, "Yeah, we'll call it Big Boy." But in fact, I'm sorry, mate, to tell you, it's actually Little Boy.
Oh.
But the bomb that
Little
it produced
Boy.
wasn't so little.
No, that's why I thought. Why is he called?
It's called Little Boy. But alternatively, the next bomb that would be dropped was called Fat Man.
Fat Man. Oh.
And that's why the Fat Man in Fallout.
Oh, of course.
And that's what it's named after. That's a little interesting little fact for you there.
I didn't even. I'm gonna sound really thick right now, but I didn't know they dropped two.
Yeah, they dropped. So the first bomb they dropped was on Hiroshima. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Right. First bomb they dropped, and that obviously devastated. Killed hundreds, thousands. And then because the Japanese didn't surrender, they went ahead and dropped another nuke on Nagasaki, another city.
Oh, jeez.
And there's actually a documented case for it, and this man's actually considered the most unluckiest man in history. He lived in Hiroshima.
Right.
And he got nuked in Hiroshima. After getting unwell and being in hospital from staying in Hiroshima, he went home to Nagasaki and got nuked.
Oh, no.
So he's the only person in history to ever be recorded to be nuked twice.
Jeez.
I can't get over the small things. Like imagine getting
How's your luck? Jeez.
But imagine how, mate, if you're in a bar and so you're talking to someone and they're like, "You've got any cool stories?" Yeah, mate, I just got fucking nuked twice.
Yeah, not only once, but twice.
I've been more than that in fucking Call of Duty, to be fair. So I'm a chap.
Yeah, I don't know what he's moaning about, really. He only got nuked twice.
It's nothing. So one of the shortcuts that the staff were taking was that they was handling this radioactive material by hand. A three-man crew, including Hisashi, were trying to carry out the process of converting the materials into uranyl nitrate when they made a serious mistake. During the process, a specific compound needed to be added to the mixture. However, the inexperienced and poorly trained men, including Hisashi, added 7 times the recommended amount of the compound to the mixture, leading to an uncontrolled reaction.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Like, shit is getting serious.
Yeah.
And like, when you're doing it, you're carrying out a procedure like this, it was going to get worse. That's why they call it a chain reaction, because it accelerates.
Right.
It's going to continue to accelerate and get worse and worse and worse and break down. Because if you're making a radioactive material and it's very unstable, it's going to. What radioactivity basically is? What is it? If you think of an atom. Atoms won't be stable. I think for a stable element, it must have 8 electrons around it orbiting it. Naturally, atoms will always want to be at a stable level. They want to get to 8.
Yeah.
So radioactive materials, they're not stable. So what they do is they break apart and fire particles and gamma rays to try and reach the most stable energy level. But in order to reach that, and that's what Half-Life is, in order to reach that, sometimes it takes 4.5 billion years because the atomic nuclei is so big or so unstable, it takes that long to degrade, release its energy.
That's mental.
Yeah, radiation is weird.
Yeah, it's scary.
It's a weird thing.
I don't understand how. I get they were like pressured for time, but it sounds a bit like me when I'm like cooking or baking, and like they'll be like, add half a tablespoon of this, and I'll just like pour it and go, yeah, that looks about right.
Or it's sort of that you even think to yourself, maybe if I modify, I could even make it better.
Yeah, we'll throw in a couple of cashew nuts with our uranium.
Cashew nuts make everything better.
Oh yeah.
But cutting corners when you're handling fucking radioactive materials. And this is, bearing in mind, this is 1999. At this point, we have a very good, globally, we have a very good understanding of radiation. It's, safety.
Yeah.
The first atomic bomb was created in the 40s. We've got so many years of research and of understanding, and Mary Curie's research and so much. So to be handling this, these men had to, you've got to put it in their perspective as well, of how much potential pressure they were put under.
Yeah.
to cut corners. Like they mustn't have known the risks as well.
Yeah.
With the, like, you know, although they're technicians, they've got to have some sort of knowledge of the material that they're handling is
Yeah.
dangerous. I'm pretty
So-
sure Japan's got good legislation for that.
Why were they rushed to do it? What were they making it for? Just the energy?
So they're making it for nuclear fuel.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
They're
Yeah.
making it for fuel, and they had a shipment on the 28th. So their bosses were pressing them to make sure that they reach that because it's money.
Yeah.
So if they didn't meet it, and also I think obviously, you know, like imagine like how much cost there are in the transportation of it, and like
Yeah.
things you have to like implement and actually in order to get the radioactive material to a different location. Or so
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why they done it.
You wouldn't want to crash driving that delivery truck.
It's weird though. Right, and this is these things happen all the time. We don't even know about. I remember watching this thing recently in World War II. No, it wasn't World War II. I think it was in the Cold War. A American bomber was carrying an armed nuclear warhead, right? Like a serious armed nuclear warhead, and it crashed with the nuclear warhead on it.
What?
Yeah, and nobody knew about it. It was actually leaked.
That's
It crashed.
crazy.
It crashed somewhere in America with a nuclear warhead literally in it, but it didn't go off.
Fucking hell.
But I'm pretty sure if it would have gone off, I think it was like kilometers. It would have literally, the epicenter of it would have hit a city, but I can't remember which city it was. Maybe that's another episode we'll have to cover.
Yeah, for sure.
So as soon as the men added 7 times the amount of the compound to the mixture, the gamma ray alarms sounded, ringing throughout the building, and the whole site was put into an immediate panic and lockdown. And like people, kind of like hazmat, like people came in to try and understand what had happened, why the alarms had gone off. But the 3 men knew the minute those alarms had gone off and they'd added that chemical, it was them. They'd made the mistake.
Right.
And that brings me on to my next question.
Okay, hit me.
Okay. In 2006, a man called Litvinchenko suddenly fell ill and was hospitalized. It turns out he was assassinated by 2 Russians. What was he poisoned by? A. Polonium-210. B. Mercury. C. Radium-57.
Jeez. Oh god. Can we get some kind of like can I phone a friend?
Hello, Mum.
Hello.
So do you remember this case at all?
No.
So this happened. This was all over. This was a big headline news thing about a man who was just in a restaurant. I think he was in a restaurant or hotel, and he fell really ill and ended up in hospital. And he like lost all of his hair. Like a really famous photo of him in bed. Yeah, it turns out I think he was like potentially like an ex-spy or worked for the government.
Okay. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
But he was assassinated by the Russian assassin.
Okay, so it wouldn't have been Mercury, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because they would have had to have placed it on him. Or you'd have to ingest it, surely.
Yeah, and also mercury is like, I'm giving you help here, but mercury also builds up. So it's one of those things, like it's not sudden with mercury, pretty much.
Yeah, it takes this over a certain amount of time, right? What was option C?
Radium-57.
That's what I'm going for.
Ooh, it's a close one. You were wrong. Radium-57. I'm not even sure radium-57. I know radium is actually radioactive material, but I put the 57 at the end to make it sound cool.
No, that's exactly what I was. That was my. I was like, that's a big number. That's got to be dangerous. That's the way my brain worked.
And then the correct answer is polonium-210.
Polonium.
And it actually put it, I'm pretty sure, in his tea.
Right.
Hotel. And yeah, obviously, he fell ill pretty quickly.
Jeez.
I think polonium's quite a classic radioactive poisoning.
Right.
Like it's common. Like everyone's just going around poisoning each other with polonium-210. It's scary. Imagine like also like who walks around? How do you even transport that or get that in the country to like assassinate someone? Like that's so.
Yeah, that's true.
So confusing to me. How did you even get that through?
Well, I mean, if someone can get a crocodile on a plane, I mean, I've lost all hope for anything, to be honest. Being...
I'm trying to wrap my head around that whole fucking situation, really. Immediately after the gamma rays sounded, it turns out all 3 men were exposed to a lethal dose. However, Hisashi was exposed to one of the highest doses ever recorded at 17 SV due to his proximity to the reaction.
Jeez.
So he was the closest to the actual, the mixing. So being exposed to anything greater than 10 SV is considered to be deadly, but the other 2 men's dose did not exceed this. So they were actually within a considered non-deadly, but they were still in the higher end. I'm pretty sure one of them was 10, so it's literally just on the cusp of what they consider. The alarms go off, they realise they're fucked up. Their bosses come down and say, you need to get to hospital right now, and you need to be cleaned. So I'm pretty sure on site they would have had to have like some sort of cleaning, like a wash down.
Yeah.
Remove all of your clothes.
Yeah.
Because if you've got that on you, you've got to remove all of your clothes, wash all of your body thoroughly.
Yeah.
The men were ordered to go to the hospital and get checked out. So the men arrived at the University of Tokyo hospital, and all of them had radiation burns, radiation sickness, which included symptoms such as nausea, fatigue, and a loss of appetite. Classic radiation sickness. We've all played Fallout. We've seen the results, but I'm pretty sure it'd be a lot worse in real life. Fuck that.
Just all pop a fucking anti-rad real quick.
Oh, yeah, was it? Radaway.
Radaway, that's the one.
We should have taken some Radex before they walked into the facility that day. All 3 men had samples taken for further analysis. However, Hisashi kept stressing that he felt fine and was telling the doctors that there's nothing wrong with me. I feel fine now, although I've got these burns. I want to I'll get recover, but I want to get out of here. But the doctors advised that he waits for his results. So, have you got any idea what the results would be, or any inkling?
Well, due to the title, I would imagine he doesn't stand much chance.
That does give it away, actually. I should have actually chosen a more discreet.
Yeah, so I don't think his results came back the all clear.
It's not looking good, is it?
No.
Upon waiting a few days, the doctors contacted Hisashi and immediately gave him the chilling results. But before I give you those results, we've got another question.
Ooh.
What is the most lethal form of radiation? Is it A, alpha particles, B, beta particles, or C, gamma rays?
Oh, you're sending me back to science. It's gamma, right?
You are correct.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm glad. Yes.
Yeah, gamma rays is the worst because gamma rays, obviously, it's a ray.
It penetrates like shit ton of shit.
Yeah, it goes through a lot faster. It's a lot more high energy.
Yeah.
Not good. You don't want to be standing directly in front of it. I'm pretty sure gamma rays can go through lead.
I'm pretty sure it can.
GCSE biology.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to
biology,
look back to.
So Hisashi finally sat down and spoke to the doctors at the hospital. They asked him how he's feeling, and he said he's fine. And he was like, there's really nothing wrong. Nothing's happened. I've got this pain. I've got these symptoms, but I feel like everyone's trying to make it a bigger deal than it is.
Right.
The doctors said to him, "You need to listen. This is serious." And the doctors sat down to him and said these words, and they said, "You should be dead. There's no way you should be alive." Not looking good. And they said, when you're exposed to that extremely lethal dose of radiation, it wiped out every chromosome within your body in every cell, meaning that you're in some kind of animated corpse state.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so every chromosome within his body in every cell has been
zapped,
destroyed, completely broken.
That's crazy.
So I presume they must have done a karyotype. They must have lined up his chromosomes and looked at them under a microscope and saw them.
They're just gone.
They're gone. They're fucked. They're wiped. The rearrangements and the chromosomes must have just been shot to pieces.
That's That's crazy to think he was even still functioning as a person at that rate.
This is, yeah, it's like that's the thing, like he's basically a walking dead man, because once his chromosomes have been completely wiped out, there's no way for him to reproduce his cells.
Yeah.
You can't carry out mitosis. There's no, the DNA, the chromosomes aren't going to align. They're not going to be able to replicate themselves.
Yeah.
To create daughter cells. So basically, he's in like an animated corpse state. His body, the only thing that he can do is live until his body falls apart.
He is a ghoul from Fallout.
That's literally it. So without the chromosomes, there's no way for your cells to divide, renew tissue, and you're extremely vulnerable to infections. As Hisashi had a white blood cell count of 0.
Jeez.
His white blood cells he had no white blood cells.
Completely. So yeah, he was just a walking skin bag.
Yeah, basically. He had nothing. He literally had nothing. No, so like even the most common, we encounter infections all the time, and like we have bacteria on our skin, we have like natural flora, all of these kinds of things, and they are good for us. They're all very good for us, but our immune system keeps them in check as well. It stops them from turning bad, and under the wrong circumstances, if you haven't got any white blood cells, you're immunocompromised. These infections on your body, these pathogens on your body, they're going to turn dangerous, even though they're good. They're going to seize the opportunity. So in normal conditions, you have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and during a process called mitosis, these are replicated and distributed into newly formed cells to make normal tissue. And without any chromosomes, there's no way your cells can function properly. Also, chromosomes contain genes. Genes create proteins. Proteins are fundamental to every process within your body. So there's so many different factors that that's going to go wrong within his body as he ultimately meets his end. So Hisashi knew he was going to die. It was just only a matter of when. And the doctors had no clue how long the process would take, because this was literally the first time this was ever documented in history. So we had radiation patients in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and other patients have been exposed to radiation, but the dose that he received was the highest dose actually documented.
Right.
So over the next few months, Hisashi would literally watch himself fall apart and the skin fall from his bones.
Jeez.
And that light-hearted verse brings us into another question. What sex chromosomes do boys inherit? Is it A, XX? Is it B, XE? Or is it C, XY?
It's C, I believe.
You're correct. It is XY. So the boys inherit one X chromosome from their mother and one Y from their father. You do know biology, you're smart.
See?
You're not just a pretty face, you. Okay, so the least affected out of the 2 other men that Hisashi was with would sadly pass away 7 months later in hospital in 2000. And this was due to lung and liver failure. During this time, he did receive cancer treatments and skin grafts, but it all had minimal effect. A few statements were brought out, and apparently this man's pain was kept at a minimum before his passing. However, Hisashi would not have the same fate. Hisashi was placed in intensive care during his first week at hospital and received treatments and transfusions to increase his white blood cell count, skin grafts to treat his terrible radiation burns, which many of the treatments he received were very experimental. So the doctors were literally just going by what the research was saying, what had been seen before, but they've never actually treated a patient in this state, who was in this animated corpse position. After 1 week of treatment, Hisashi told the doctors that he's basically sick of the treatment. It's basically hurting him. It's experimental. Yeah. And he actually quote said, "I'm not a guinea pig." Like he knew he was going to die. He wanted to die. Because it's one of those things. Like, do you want to wait till the end to see, suffer unimaginable pain and be in
Yeah.
such a horrible state, or just let me die. It's one of those. It's an ethics in it. It's a medical thing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would imagine.
What would you do if you was in that situation?
Would think well, the problem is obviously his body is trying to give up. He's given up, but the doctors are like keeping him alive.
Yeah.
Like living. That's so hard to like comprehend.
It also seems like they're keeping him alive for their benefit.
Yeah.
Like they're basically doing it against his will.
Just to see if they could.
It's a really tricky one, and it's one of those things like euthanasia. It brings up like euthanasia as euthanasia. More right, and if you're in so much pain, and we'll see what happens. So this brings on to I think this is our last question actually. We've done really well so far. So what was the most powerful nuclear bomb ever tested? Was it A, Big Daddy? We've had a lot of Big Daddies today. Is it B, Tsar Humba? Or is it C, Tsar Bomba? What are we saying about Big Daddy?
Nah, I reckon you were just hungry and was like, KFC sounds alright, I'll throw that in.
Yeah, let's throw that in. Yeah, so we can rule out Big Daddy. Tsar Pumbaa, Lion King.
From Lion King, yeah, that's very, very true.
So it's got to be C, innit? It's got to be Tsar Bomba.
Well, I would imagine so.
So we're breaking it down. So yes, Tsar Bomba was the largest bomb ever dropped, and it was dropped by the Russians.
Right.
It was this test ever carried out. And I remember once I went on like app kind of thing that you can see like the devastation if you dropped certain types of nuclear bombs, like the Fat Man, Little Boy, Tsar Bomba, on
right.
And like how big the blast zone would be if you like dropped it on London. If the Tsar Bomba was dropped on London, I'm pretty sure we would get 3rd-degree burns in Kent instantly.
Fucking hell.
And if you were looking at it towards London at the time the bomb dropped, it would blind you. Like that's how powerful it is. Like so powerful. Hisashi's condition was getting progressively worse. Almost all of his skin had become necrotic and was starting to literally fall off. And he was agonizing pain. And there's actually photos. I don't think we'll actually be able to show it on this channel because it's pretty graphic. But if you want to have a look at it, if you're interested, look it up. I would advise caution. If you're squeamish, do not look at it because it is pretty graphic.
Shall we do should I look it up right now just so you can kind of gather the reaction? Oh.
It's not funny. I shouldn't be laughing. It's horrible.
Fuck.
It's horrible, isn't it?
That is.
I was on the train, right? I was on the train in the morning, and I looked at it, and it made me feel really weird.
Yeah,
It made me feel... It looks so painful, doesn't it? Like beyond.
Yeah, I maybe don't look it up.
Don't look it up.
I would consider myself not a squeamish person at all. I'm okay with seeing fatal stuff, but I think it's something about it just knowing that people were keeping it. It doesn't look human. It doesn't.
Yeah, there's no kind of like. It's weird. Your brain can't process it. Like that's real. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody could actually be in that bad of condition. Like they could be that much in pain.
Yeah.
For that much of a human being. It's honestly so sad.
You wouldn't even think that anyone in that state could even be alive, and just trying to comprehend what. I wonder if there was at any point one of the doctors was like, just thought, oh, maybe I should just sneak in and pull the plug, because this is just unethical at this point. Like a
clinical background, like if I saw somebody, you should, as a doctor or like a scientist or whatever, it's your job to reduce suffering, and you want to minimize suffering. You don't want anyone to be in pain, but it kind of feels like with this case that they're actually going against the oath that they signed up to. They're actually prolonging suffering. There's no humanity to it whatsoever.
No. It's one of those. It's one thing like listening to this story, obviously, but seeing the images alongside it now has really like this is gonna be one of those images in your head that gets stuck for the rest of your life. Like, you will occasionally
I don't want to have to have traumatized you.
I'm gonna have nightmares now.
It's fucked. But no, in the video we're gonna add a photo right at the end to show what he looked like before this happened, because that's how people should be remembered.
Yes, you know? I agree. Yeah.
Although, like, this is us, you know, talking about radiation, talking about it as a case, you know, this is still a person that, you know, sadly did meet a horrible end. And,
yeah.
Know, loved ones and people, you know, he deserves that respect.
Yeah, for sure.
So even though Hisashi pleaded with doctors and medical staff to let him die, the treatment continued. On the 59th day of his admission, he suffered 3 heart attacks in 1 hour. And this is where it gets even bad. This is where it gets even worse. So in between these heart attacks, and he went into cardiac arrest multiple times. He died.
Yeah.
They resuscitated him.
That's mental.
They resuscitated him each time. And Hisashi would even come back round and say he's in pain and pleaded with doctors to let him die. Yeah, they didn't. They just continued to resuscitate him. This is kind of the relief to it, so he's out of the pain. It wasn't until the 83rd day that Hisashi was pronounced clinically dead due to multiple organ failure. So from the 59th day, he had 3 heart attacks. To the 83rd day, he was still alive. So how can you keep someone alive during that? It's so fucked up, isn't it?
That's rough.
It's so horrible.
Like you said, it's the most inhumane thing.
So there was a full inquiry launched into the case of Hisashi by his family, the nuclear plant, and the hospital into how did this incident happen, and why was Hisashi, his pain prolonged. Basically, there's a thing called a do not resuscitate order. So basically, when people are in like palliative or they're actually considered terminal, they can be on something called a do not resuscitate, where if they die, they don't want to be brought back.
Right.
And then there was put into question of why wasn't he put on a DNR? Why didn't he put that in place? Why they keep bringing him? And they're doctors; they have the best clinical judgment. It's not up to the patient to think of these things. Sometimes our patients are so vulnerable they can't even think about these things. They don't know.
No. Yeah,
especially when you're in a position like that. But so overall, the incident raised strong ethical debates about the actions of the doctors of the hospital, whose job was to reduce suffering, and they only increased that of an extremely unwell man during his last days. So it's a very, very sad case, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
No, that's for sure.
And then that's it.
That is a heavy one. That's hard to comprehend. I would imagine that his family members would be so angry and so hurt over the fact that he was dragged out just to see what the human body was capable of.
It's so fucked up. And the sad thing is that there's so many cases in history of this happening. I feel like there should have been action taken against the doctors.
For 100%.
Sure. And to be honest, I'm not sure. And maybe that's something we'll cover at a separate thing.
Yeah.
But I hope that justice was served and something serious went, legislation or something happened.
Yeah, I hope so too.
There's so many factors to it. There's blame should be put on the nuclear site itself.
Yeah.
For putting the pressure and poorly training staff. About. And also, in a clinical setting, or in a setting where you're handling something like that, there always should be somebody observing, who's senior, who's experienced, and making sure that you're doing the right thing, especially in a critical step of adding hazardous materials together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like a lot of this situation could have been avoided.
Yeah, and like you said, it wasn't in early stages of they didn't know what they were doing, because it's obvious they knew what they were doing. They were just trying to push for the most amount of money.
Yeah, they were trying to reach a shipment. That was literally what they were trying to do. And obviously, Hisashi and those two other men, they were cutting corners. But when you go to work, you are expected to be properly trained and looked after, and have that supervision, because some people make mistakes.
Yeah.
Wherever you work, you could work in a restaurant, you could work in in a clothes shop. It doesn't matter, there's
Yeah.
always hazards everywhere, but that's why you have management, that's why you have team leaders, to make the right decisions and oversee that. But yeah, it's a tragic case. If you have listened to this, anyone, and it's upset you, maybe put something light-hearted on, and yeah, maybe play some Apex Legends, that would cheer you up. Or what's a good film? What's a light-hearted film? Dumber and Dumber. When I was younger and I ever watched like a horror film, Dumber and Dumber was a good one.
You heard it here on Burning Questions. Go watch Dumb and Dumber. You deserve it. Go treat yourself.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you in the next one.
We will.